Xia Juyo had been prepared for this, and he used the Xia secret word void transformation. The Xia family's tyrannical secret technique directly dispelled Sirius's secret technique. He then slashed out with the third style of blade intent. The Xia family's third style of blade intent was terrifyingly powerful, and it had been able to slice apart the Spirit Palace's Sky Palace with a single slash. It was enough to threaten any powerhouse, and the Xia family's progenitor Qin, who had been transformed from the Prime Clear, had withdrawn the third style of blade intent as a basis for determining whether or not one could remain on the mountain peak. Facing Xia Juyo's third slash, Qiushi raised Sirius Sword technique once more and slashed out. The stars exploded and Qiushi spat out a mouthful of blood. She had been injured by the third style of blade intent. When they saw this scene, many people found it strange. Qiushi had grasped the Sourcebox Array, Great Shift Array, and logically speaking she should have been able to dodge the attack. Why had she taken it head-on? Xia Juyo found it strange as well, as he had already prepared his refined netherworld palm. He had been waiting for Qiushi to dodge the third style of blade intent so that he could attack her. He had not expected her to take it head-on. If she had not been injured before, she would have been able to do so, but now she was barely able to. Why had she taken it head-on? Lu Yin stared at Qiushi, and as he watched her rune lines continue to increase, a thought flashed through his mind. An innate gift. This woman must have used an innate gift. Qiushi was known as the Four Ultimate Heavenly Maiden, and from what he knew, her realm was related to Sirius technique. Sirius Sword technique was considered one of the Four Ultimate Heavenly Maidens, while her secret technique, Stellar Shift, and Boundless Advanced Lockbreaker and Sourcebox Arrays were another. In that case, the fourth Ultimate Heavenly Maiden was most likely an innate gift, and a strange one at that. As he watched Qiushi continuously cough up blood, Lu Yin fell into deep thought. What kind of innate gift was this? The more injured she was, the more her rune lines would increase? Xia Juyo could not see the rune lines, but he could feel that Qiushi had changed. Her injuries were clearly becoming more and more serious, but he still felt a chill run down his spine. He immediately attacked with the Xia family's three styles of blade intent. Across from him, Qiushi spat out another mouthful of blood. In Lu Yin's eyes, her rune lines had increased to a level that surpassed Wang Yi's, Wu Taibai's, and the others. Her figure then disappeared. Xia Juyo's pupils shrank as he saw the Great Shift Array. He did not know why, but at this moment he felt as if he had been targeted by the Grim Reaper. Qiushi appeared in front of Xia Juyo, but she did not dodge the three styles of blade intent. She raised her hand and slashed out with Sirius Sword technique. Sirius Sword technique should have been severed by the three styles of blade intent, but instead, it erupted with a terrifying aura. With a single slash, the three styles of blade intent was severed, and at the same time, the tip of the sword flashed past and pierced Xia Juyo's neck. Fresh blood dripped down the sword star and onto the mountain peak. Everyone fell silent. Qiushi had killed Xia Juyo with a single slash. Countless people in front of their screens were stunned. Outside of Mount Supreme, Xia Meng walked out with a pale face. "You're courting death," she roared as she charged towards the mountain, but she was blocked by someone. It was the Hall of Honor's Interstellar Tribunal's head judge. The Hall of Honor's Interstellar Tribunal's head judge was shrouded in darkness all year round, and no one could see him clearly. Even Xia Meng, with a power level of more than 900,000, couldn't see him clearly. No matter how strong one was, if one did not have a way to deal with it, they would not be able to hit their target. Lu Yin was not confident that he would be able to hit his target, but Wu Taibai had been able to do so easily. Lu Yin knew that Yao Xian's spiritual force was definitely related to the airflow around Wu Taibai's body. What battle technique was that? Wang Yi looked at Wu Taibai coldly, not surprised at all. The strength that Yao Xian had displayed was actually quite monstrous. His unparalleled spiritual force, supreme physical strength, and strange state of nothingness were all difficult to deal with. He was strong enough to fight against any of the top experts present, but unfortunately he had run into Wu Taibai. Wu Taibai gave off the feeling that he was the perfect counter to Yao Xian. At the bottom of the sky stairway, Yao Xian clutched his chest as his skin burned. He had been careless, and the seal of mountains and rivers had actually been able to attack him. He did not even understand what had happened. In the top 10 battles, Qiushi and Xia Juyo, Yao Xian and Wu Taibai did not disappoint. They all displayed terrifying strength that far surpassed the other competitors. The third battle soon began. It was Lu Yin's turn for the third battle. He walked out and his opponent was more void. Throughout the universe, countless people grew excited. On one side was the Great Eastern Alliance's alliance leader, the Hall of Honor's fourth disciple, and one of the five past lords, Lu Yin. On the other side was the sixth mainland's Tao Source Three Skies, also one of the five past lords. This battle attracted everyone's attention. More Void was the Tao Source Three Skies, the future sky of the sixth mainland. He had always looked down on the fifth mainland, but with the start of the sovereign tournament, one expert after another appeared, causing him to reign in his arrogance. This was especially true for Shangqing, whose airflow had transformed into the Xia family's progenitor Chen's blade. He had truly felt how terrifying Shangqing was, and he had even been willing to join forces with others to attack Shangqing. Shangqing was recognized by everyone as the only sovereign. Aside from Shangqing, Qiu Shi, Yuhua Mavis, Drunkard, and Xia Jiuyo, none of them were weak and had concealed their strength well. Lu Yin had fought many times and revealed all of his trump cards. More Void knew what techniques Lu Yin had, but knowing them was one thing and being able to deal with them was another. He had been affected by Lu Yin's battles with Yao Xian and Devourer, and he could clearly sense how terrifying Lu Yin's strength was. This battle would not be easy. This sovereign tournament had suppressed the confidence of the Tao Source Three Skies. In the higher realms, countless cultivators from the sixth mainland were similarly nervous. If this had been before the tournament, they would not have been like this. Too many experts had appeared in the sovereign tournament, and Lu Yin was an expert among experts. Everyone knew that Shangqing was a genius. Bu Kong walked into the arena without saying a single word. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 13-17. Wu Taibai had defeated Feather Mavis with the surging flow of air around his body. That flow of air had confused everyone, but now, it had gathered in his palm and was suddenly released. It was completely different from before. In the distance, Lu Yin's expression changed as Wu Taibai's rune lines increased dramatically. The martial ancestor's imprint and this flow of air caused his rune lines to surpass the Xia family's ancestor Qin. The blade light descended, but Wu Taibai waved his hand and tore it apart. He leapt up and pressed down on the Xia family's ancestor Chen's shoulder, pressing him into the ground. At the same time, his body disappeared and reappeared in front of Shangqing. Shangqing was astonished. When Wu Taibai struck out with his palm, the two streams of air did not even have the ability to slow down his attack and were shattered by his palm. The palm imprinted in front of Shangqing and an incomparably fierce force descended. Shangqing could feel it even before it came into contact. The power of this palm surpassed the danger that Lu Tianmu's 13th sword had brought to him. Wu Taibai's palm landed very quickly and no one could react in time. However, just as it was about to touch Shangqing's body, it moved further and further away. Shangqing felt a chill run down his back. Not good, it's a secret technique. The Hall of Honor's secret technique, Banish. Although Wu Taibai had surpassed the Xia family's ancestor Qin and the two flows of air, threatening Shangqing, he was still pushed away by the Banish technique. The Banish technique did not throw Wu Taibai too far away. He used the seal of mountains and rivers in midair, but it still could not touch Shangqing. Instead, the Xia family's ancestor Qin slashed at Wu Taibai. However, the blade did not injure Wu Taibai and was instead obstructed by the flow of air around his body. Wu Taibai landed on the ground, and the Xia family's ancestor Qin slashed out. Wu Taibai raised his leg to block the blade and retreated once more. He looked helplessly at the distant Shangqing. I admit defeat. Although many had expected this result, it was still shocking that it had actually happened. Shangqing had still won. He was ranked first on the top 10 predicted rankings, and had always been the only prime on the surface. Now he was only a step away from the true prime position. Wu Taibai's strength wasn't weak and could temporarily suppress ancestor Qin of the Xia family. This was something that no one had ever done before. However, he couldn't pose a threat to Shangqing. Even if he could tangle with the Xia family's ancestor Qin that Shangqing had transformed into, he wouldn't be able to win in the end. Thus he might as well admit defeat. Shangqing frowned as Wu Taibai had just given him a sense of pressure. It had been a long time since he had felt such a sense of danger, and he loved such a sense of danger. As he thought about it, he looked at Wang Yi and Lu Yin. Both of you come at me together. Lu Yin raised an eyebrow. There were only 3 people left in the competition. Himself, Wang Yi, and Shangqing. He had originally thought that there would be one more person who would have a bye, but Shangqing had actually taken on 2 people by herself. Don't hesitate, deaf-mute brother. No one is a match for him in a duel. Wu Taibai's voice sounded out with a hint of helplessness. Wang Yi walked out and looked at Shangqing in the distance. Until now, he still felt that it was inconceivable. There was actually someone in this starry sky who had such strength. It was enough to challenge those 4 people. However, it couldn't be considered true strength. It was just borrowing Ancestor Chen's strength. He looked at Lu Yin, who wasn't too far away. Wang Yi actually wanted to fight with him, but a 3-way battle wasn't too bad either. Even though Wang Yi had been thrown out by the banishment technique, the force of his attack still affected Shang Qing. Shang Qing retreated several steps with blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked up at Lu Yin and happened to meet his gaze. The illusion technique that attacked me at the Central Pass came from you? Lu Yin didn't have the time to chat with the Xia family's progenitor. Chen's blade descended one after another, and each strike seemed to be able to seal off Lu Yin's movements. Lu Yin had long since used his cosmic art to clearly see the trajectory of progenitor Chen's blade. Otherwise he would have been easily struck. Shang Qing was injured, and this was the first time this had happened since the start of the competition. In front of their screens, many people were excited. This was going to be exciting. With 3 strands of ancestral qi revolving around him, Shang Qing was like a deity, pressuring everyone. But now he was finally injured, which meant that he wasn't invincible. Progenitor Chen attacked Wang Yi, moving through the void. His attacks were formless, but they sent chills down everyone's spine. Wang Yi used the Kuei Bear to attack again, but this time it pierced through Progenitor Chen. Unable to hit him, Wang Yi's eyes flashed, and his figure disappeared. He didn't want to tangle with Progenitor Chen and instead attacked Shang Qing. Suddenly, his figure paused and blood flowed out of the corner of his mouth. He had been hit by Shang Qing's secret technique, punishment. Behind him, Progenitor Chen walked out, raised his hand and pointed. The tip of his finger turned black. The black light distorted the void and even light was sucked away. Wang Yi's left hand spread open, and he pointed at Progenitor Chen. 4 ultimate techniques, Pearl Carrot. Progenitor Chen's finger struck Wang Yi's side, and blood spurted out. Wang Yi's physical strength was extremely strong, and even Lu Yin's emptiness palm could only leave a mark on him. It couldn't penetrate him, but it was broken by Progenitor Chen's finger. However, the flames on the surface of Progenitor Chen's body suddenly disappeared, and Wang Yi's figure flickered. Progenitor Chen's abdomen was cut open, and he turned into a stream of air that dissipated. In the distance, Shang Qing was shocked. Progenitor Chen's formless energy had disappeared. Otherwise, Wang Yi wouldn't have been able to succeed. Wang Yi was the first person to injure Progenitor Chen, and at this moment, everyone knew that once Progenitor Chen was injured, what flowed out of the wound wasn't blood, but air. Furthermore, this air would fuse, which meant that the 3 sons' ancestral qi wouldn't disappear, and Progenitor Chen could fight without restrictions. Lu Yin also saw this scene and his gaze sank. Although Progenitor Chen didn't have any intelligence, he would never die or be injured. This could be considered to make up for his lack of intelligence. Now, the only way to defeat Shang Qing was to defeat him and force him to be unable to use the 3 sons' ancestral qi. In the mountain and sea realm, Corpse Ghost had exposed the true nature of the 3 sons' ancestral qi. At this moment, in the final battle of the Sovereign Tournament, Wang Yi had exposed the terrifying characteristics of the 3 sons' ancestral qi. Now, even Shang Qing's heart sank as he felt the terror of this battle technique. The Pearl Vine of the 4 ultimates could seal any of the enemy's techniques. Shang Qing had sealed Lu Yin's strength, causing him to be unable to use the hollow palm and causing his strength to plummet. Just now, Shang Qing had sealed Progenitor Chen's formless ability to injure him, but it was useless. Even if he had the strength to destroy Progenitor Chen, it would still be useless, as Progenitor Chen could appear again. Shang Qing stood quietly in the void, surrounded by an air current. He looked like a deity as he calmly looked at Lu Yin and Wang Yi. High up in the sky, the black aura surged like waves, spreading into the heavens and into the distance. In the heavens, anyone and anything touched by the black aura would feel a chill that came from the depths of their hearts. Even the envoys and powerhouses with power levels close to 1,000,000 felt the same. A terrifying existence had suddenly appeared. This was the essence of power, and it wasn't that Lu Yin could actually threaten them. This kind of power itself brought about an incomparably terrifying feeling. But at this moment, no one cared about that. Everyone stared blankly at the screen in disbelief. Even the 6th Mainland's 3 ancestors looked at Mount Supreme in disbelief. Lu Yin stood quietly at the summit of Mount Supreme. At this moment, his appearance had completely changed, as if he was a completely different person. His long hair fell to his waist, and his upper body was half naked. Black gas swirled around his body like a rotating nebula or a spiraling chain. His body was branded with an incomprehensible dark red pattern. His left arm was wrapped in white gas, forming a shield. His right hand held a giant goggle and pressed it against the ground. Behind him, the black gas rose like clouds, occasionally forming a pair of eyes that were deathly still and emotionless. The broken black and white cocoon gradually turned into a stream of chi that slowly wrapped around Lu Yin's waist, forming a black cloak. Lu Yin looked up, his pure black eyes staring at Shangqing like the gaze of a death god. At this moment, the entire universe was speechless as everyone stared blankly. Below, Blackie was stunned, his eyes filled with splendor. So handsome. Xiao Bai exclaimed, so handsome. Handsome brother. Ling Gong was shocked. Even she had to admit that Lu Yin was very handsome at this moment. Ku Wei's hair stood on end, and he looked at Lu Yin with both fear and excitement. Seventh bro, you're so awesome. When Sansi, Wang Mingguang and the rest stared at Lu Yin in shock. What was this? His innate gift? Lu Yin had never revealed his innate gift, so it was only natural for them to make such guesses. Mira felt her scalp go numb. No, she had seen Lu Yin's innate gift before. It should be healing, but what was this? Could it be two innate gifts? Wang Yi was shocked. Why did he feel like he had heard of this before? Why couldn't he remember? Wu Taibai stared at Lu Yin. He also felt like he had heard of something similar before, but he couldn't recall where. He stared blankly at Lu Yin. At this moment, Lu Yin's rune lines made him feel terrified. It wasn't the sheer number of rune lines, but rather the universe that was affected by the rune lines. It brought about a deep chill that made his entire body tremble in fear. He was one of the 10 arbiters, and he had cultivated the codex of Eon evolution to the knowing realm. He had also inherited the rune progenitor's civilization, so how could he be afraid of someone? This shouldn't be the case. Suddenly Lu Yin looked over, his pure black eyes staring at Su He as he slowly raised Go Lien. Su He's pupils shrank. These people all had enemies, and who could guarantee that they wouldn't find any weaknesses in these battle videos? Even Lu Yin didn't want to be studied, even if his strength was unfathomable. The spacecraft steadily sailed through space. Wendy Yushan checked Lu Yin's wounds. They're fine now. Lu Yin replied, after the sovereign tournament ended, I used medicine to control them. They're fine now. Is that so? The residual power in your wounds must be hurting you, Wendy Yushan said. Lu Yin shrugged. His wounds had been caused by progenitor Chen's blade, and the progenitor's power had wreaked havoc around his wounds. It was the same as Shang Rong's power that had been left behind in Ling Gong's wounds. The best way to deal with such residual power was to use lock breaking. That was how Lu Yin had helped Ling Gong back then, but his wounds had been healed by Wendy Yushan. Wendy Yushan's healing talent was quite good, and the effects were obvious. Thank you, brothers, for your support. However, this is just a clever way of using it, and it's different from controlling star energy. In the history of the Sun family, the person with the most profound control of star energy was an elder from 7,000 years ago. His control of star energy reached the world realm, and that's already the limit. Oh? Is it that difficult to break through to the profound creation realm? Lu Yin was curious. He had never taken the initiative to cultivate his control of star energy. His ability to control star energy to the world realm was partly due to luck as well as comprehension. During the Supreme Tournament, Drunkard's battle had broadened Lu Yin's horizons. Drunkard's ability to absorb everything into a world of star energy had reached an unimaginable level. He was truly like a god, and Lu Yin had been very envious of Drunkard. If only he could raise his control of star energy to the profound creation realm. Sun Baitao sighed. The profound creation realm is a legendary realm that has nothing to do with strength. Instead, it has to do with comprehension, innate talent, and luck. My Sun family does not have such good fortune. In the entire universe, there should be no more than 5 people who have reached the profound creation realm in terms of star energy control. Of the younger generation, only the 10 arbiters Drunkard has reached that level. If our control of star energy can reach the profound creation realm, then our Sun family will definitely reach greater heights and not just be limited to the Ascension Flow Zone. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 1342. Fortunately, he had finally found a way to cultivate the Reaper transformation. The Reaper transformation, it really could only be transformed after death. What was that place just now? Luin thought about it, but he couldn't figure it out. He used star crystals to restore his die and continued rolling. Wait, how many star essences had he just spent? This was a serious problem, and Luin hurriedly took a look before relaxing. Fortunately, he had spent over 50 million star essences, which was still acceptable. He continued rolling his die, and this time he rolled a pi one, which dropped a gadget. Luin looked at it, but it was meaningless and very ordinary. He tossed it away and continued rolling. It was still a pi one, and it dropped another gadget. Luin was speechless and looked at it again, but it was still meaningless. Why did he keep dropping things like this today? Still, it was better than throwing away those women's underwear. Again. This time his luck wasn't bad and he rolled a pi one. He watched as the two screens rose up, as this was what he was looking forward to the most. He threw the universal armor onto the screen and began to frantically use star essence. This universal armor had already been upgraded 10 times, and the 10th upgrade had cost him more than 14 million star essence. Its rune lines were already close to 600,000, and Luin didn't know how many more upgrades it could take. Star essence continued to be consumed, and the armor finally dropped after almost 30 million star essence. This was the 11th upgrade, but Luin didn't feel any heartache and continued. On the 12th upgrade he had spent almost 60 million star essence. He had suddenly lost 90 million star essence, which made his heart ache. He continued. However, it was useless as the star essence hadn't been consumed. The universal armor could no longer be upgraded, as the materials had already reached their limit. He looked at the boundless rune lines, which should be no less than 700,000 rune lines. This meant that with this universal armor, Luin could defend against attacks from powerhouses with a power level of 700,000. What a pity, as it would be great if he could upgrade it a few more times. Even though the rune lines were around 700,000, it wouldn't be easy to defend against a powerhouse with a power level of 700,000. He would also need to obtain better materials to either fuse with the armor or reforge it. If he reforged it, then the money he had spent on this universal armor would be gone. Forget it, he would just give it to someone else. Wendy Yushan or Ming Yen would be fine. The next one to be upgraded was the exquisite lake spring water. Actually, Luin had long since wanted to upgrade the Ink Jade Lake spring water. When he had done so before, he had dripped it into his eyes, which had allowed him to directly comprehend the Divine Eye Realm's star energy control. He didn't know how much the Ink Jade Lake spring water would allow him to clearly see the universe. This universe was very mysterious, and there was a saying that the end of the microscopic was the macroscopic. Luin was looking forward to it. He only had 18 drops of spring water left, and 5 of them had been upgraded 14 times. He took out a drop and began to crazily toss out star essences. Back then, Luin had only spent 560,000 star essence to upgrade himself 14 times. Yes, Luin could now ignore that amount of money, as it was only 560,000 star essence. 15th time, 16th time, 17th time. Every time the lake's water was upgraded, it became more transparent and gave Luin a strange feeling. Staring at the lake's water was like looking through a key to another world. Alliance leader Lu, what's the point of toying with people? Luin apologized. I'm really sorry for the delay, Madame Yu. How about this? I'll go to the Southern Weave right now and we can talk face to face. How about that? Madame Yu was so angry that her chest heaved. That was not what she meant. Luin had purposely told her that they would meet in the Southern Weave, and she had passed the information to the Xia family. That was why Xia Jiuyo had dared to go to Astral 10. If not for her information, Xia Jiuyo would not have been in trouble. Although no one blamed her, she had indeed been used by Luin, and the Xia family would not treat her kindly. However, she could not complain to Luin about this. Was she supposed to tell him that she was still in contact with the 7 courts? That she had sold him out? The more she thought about it, the more sullen she felt. Madame Yu had lived for so many years, and she had maintained contact with the 7 courts under the sword sex surveillance without being discovered. She had been cautious to a certain extent, but now she had been played by a junior. She could not even voice out her grievances. She had never experienced such a feeling in her entire life. Madame Yu's expression changed when she saw Lu Yin's apologetic expression. She could not guess whether Luin had purposely used her to pass the information or whether he had not considered her and had unintentionally delayed their meeting. She could not see through this youth. Ever since then this youth's name had never stopped, regardless of whether it was an Ironblood Weave, Endless Weave, or the Outerverse Unification War. This youth had gradually become the master of the Outerverse, and now he possessed strength that even Top Mist had to look up to. Now, killing Top Mist would not require any external aid and it would be easy. Top Mist greets the Alliance leader, Top Mist said from within the black fog. The black fog covering his body dissipated, revealing his 1-meter tall body. Luin looked at Top Mist. If this person had not been 1 meter tall, then Luin would have ended him with a single shot, and none of the subsequent events would have occurred. Long time no see. Senior is still as elegant as ever, Luin said with a smile. Top Mist was terrified as he had always been timid and good at preserving his own life. He had also expressed his attitude early on, or else he would not have been able to survive until now. In front of the Alliance leader, this lowly one does not dare to call himself senior. Luin waved a hand and took a step forward. He swept past Top Mist and entered Mafioso Planet. Top Mist's pupils shrank. He had not sensed Lu Yin's speed at all, and the youth had already appeared behind him. If Lu Yin had attacked him, Top Mist believed that he would not have been able to last even a second. No matter what life-saving techniques he had, even if he had not used up his bloody handprint power vessel, he would not have been able to defeat Lu Yin. The strength that the top 10 had displayed during the Sovereign Tournament was enough to make him despair. Top Mist became even more respectful. Mafioso Planet was gloomy all year round, and it had nurtured many assassins. Lu Yin's domain swept through the area, and his domain's range was quite wide. In the blink of an eye he found a familiar face, the bespectacled Mistchild. The bespectacled Mistchild looked up and saw Lu Yin looking at her. Her eyes lit up as she had always wanted to take the initiative to contact Lu Yin, but he had been too fast for her to keep up. She had never thought that Lu Yin would appear on Mafioso Planet. Lu Yin had never forgotten about the bespectacled Mistchild, as this female assassin had helped him greatly in the past. Even though she had her own plans, her innate gift was very precious. She could increase her strength by consuming poisons, and Lu Yin just so happened to have the most poisonous poisons. He currently had 5 bottles of Elder Wu's poisons, all of which had been upgraded 8 times. They were enough to threaten an envoys, and they had also been the reason why he had been able to heavily injure Crimson Lord. These poisons could not be upgraded due to the limited materials used. He casually took out a bottle and tossed it to the bespectacled Mistchild. The bespectacled Mistchild was delighted and she hurriedly caught it. "Thank you, Your Highness." Lu Yin smiled, but he did not say anything else. He had left her with an opportunity, and how far she could go in the future would depend on herself. Perhaps her innate gift would bring him a pleasant surprise. Top Mist was not surprised that Lu Yin would help the bespectacled Mistchild, as the events of the past could not be hidden from him. The bespectacled Mistchild had cooperated with Lu Yin to deal with the other Mistchildren, obtain information on Mafioso Planet, and assist the Great Eastern Alliance. He had long since known about this. Now, the bespectacled Mistchild's status on Mafioso Planet was second only to his own. This was not because of her strength but because of her relationship with Lu Yin. "Do you still have the blood palm?" Lu Yin asked as he toured Mafioso Planet. The scenery flashed past him and he quickly traveled through space. Behind him, Top Mist heard the question and replied, "No, I used it all back in Ironblood Weave." Of course, Lu Yin remembered as he was the one who had forced Top Mist to use it. A majestic amount of rune lines flashed past the corner of his eye. Lu Yin abruptly turned around and looked to his right. Since the school was still in session, there weren't many people around. Lu Yin immediately saw an old man walk past and he stared at the old man. Those rune lines had definitely come from him. Those rune lines belonged to an enlighter at the very least. Earth had actually attracted an enlighter. Lu Yin retracted his aura and slowly followed behind the old man. The old man didn't notice Lu Yin's presence and simply walked around Jinling Military Academy. As the students walked out in an orderly fashion, the old man silently followed behind them. Lu Yin frowned. All of the students had left? Shouldn't they be in school at this time? As an enlighter, the old man simply followed behind the group of students. Lu Yin followed behind them at a leisurely pace. The group of students quickly boarded a large flywheel under the school's arrangements. The army cleared a path for them as they headed towards the largest sports plaza in the city center of Jinling. The old man followed them on the ground, and each step he took covered a kilometer. He walked very slowly, but it was as if he had staggered through space. Lu Yin did the same and no one on Earth noticed this. Zhou Shan sat on the flywheel with his daughter, Zhou Sisi, beside him. Cece, remember, don't tell anyone about Uncle Lou's appearance, Zhou Shan warned. Zhou Cece replied, I know. He's not a child. Be more careful, Zhou Shan grumbled. Dad, why did Goddess Luo come to Earth to perform? They probably can't pay her much, so she can't earn much. Do you think they only want to earn money? Earth's position in the universe is too special. This is your Uncle Lou's hometown, and everyone wants to settle down here to establish a relationship with him. Some want money while others want fame. That means this Goddess Luo is pretty smart. Zhou Shan looked ahead with a complicated expression. Goddess Luo? Goddess Luo? He had met her once before and he knew about her relationship with Bai Shui. He also knew that she had feelings for Lu Yin. This woman wasn't here for fame, but rather because this was Lu Yin's hometown. She wanted to get closer to him. In his eyes, Goddess Luo was a true goddess. She was resplendent, beautiful, and dazzling. Unfortunately, Lu Yin's status was too high, and he could find any woman he wanted. Zhou Shan wouldn't be able to see the results of his weight. Goddess Luo was the most dazzling star in the outerverse, and her performance would cause a sensation in any region, let alone Earth. Earth was too small, and Jinling Stadium was so small that most people couldn't even buy a ticket. Those who could buy a ticket were either rich people from the outerverse or had a special status. Half of the stadium was occupied by students from Jinling Military Academy, and since these students didn't collect tickets, this dance performance was destined to not make any money. Goddess Luo had already performed this dance many times on Earth, and she was very persistent. The old man followed the students to the stadium and easily entered. Lu Yin looked at Goddess Luo's image in shock. Why had she come to Earth? Why was she holding a dance performance? Was there anyone on Earth who could afford tickets? Was there a place for these people to watch? Lu Yin knew that Goddess Luo's every performance in the outerverse would attract at least a few 100 million people. Even in a place like Xenu Star, where the rich were everywhere, her performance would still attract a few 100,000 people. On Earth, there shouldn't be anyone who could afford a ticket to Goddess Luo's dance performance, but these students had actually managed to enter. Lu Yin easily entered the stadium and stared at the old man the entire time. On the other side, a young man was wearing a hat and sucking on a straw as he sauntered into the stadium.